with a born again believer, a King James reader. When they come to putting in work, I got more stripes than a zebra. See the demon murderer in progress. I'm creeping up on him slow like his name was Cyrus. Then I put two up in where we digest. Why stress? I just put it down on sight so I guess you can't deal with the real. Let it on the still. Let me get this off of my chest. Why yes, I'm just a spiritual caterpillar, life healer, blood spiller, to make it blunt, a straight demon killer. The other day I had a dream. It seemed that I was crowned the king, given the kingdom and the black queen. But I told the kingdom bye, and I kissed the queen goodbye. Cause I'd rather post up in the ghetto and see demons die. See, I don't have no love for demons and they don't love me. So I grab my KJV and I put it down constantly. Takes authority over the strong man when I'm 459 in him. He's always on my mind and I'm going to sleep and I'm dreaming of finding him. Always like gaze of breaking darkness in 100 ways. You attack my soul like I'm on fast and pray 100 days. And then you'll miss like a gorilla, bleeding the blood over your villa. It's the sanctified blood wash, demon killer, killer. Yeah, yo, I walk through the valley of the shadows of my neighborhood. I fear no evil. Yeah, yo, I walk through the valley of the shadows of my neighborhood. I fear no evil. I'm hosting, shine the gates of hell. I got the blood of Christ, so they can't prevail. I hear them talking, they don't know I'm stalking. They feel the leave more dead slugs in they forehead. NIBSTRAPPEE in my HANDCREEP with me. I fix in the gate, now it's too late, it's no escape. I got the shield of faith, and I'm shooting scriptures like a tray.
What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? How are y'all doing this evening? How are y'all doing? It has been a lovely, lovely day. It's been a lovely, lovely day. I hope y'all are all blessed. What we are going to talk about today is our arch nemesis. These are a people that you've seen all over the Bible. They've changed their names and fiddled with their names and stuff. And, we're going to go into a little bit of that. But they're very elusive in, their base disorganized nature has made them very elusive, and they have some features that I'm sure you all will begin to see that there are some similarities. There's some things going on that we got to talk about it. We got to have a conversation about these folks. This is something that we have heard a lot about in scriptures. We've read these scriptures, but I don't think people have really dived into who these folks really are. And sadly, as we've seen them around, we've actually talked about them in history a lot, but they're chameleons, man. They are masters of disguise. That movie, Master of Disguise, that's like them right there. They love to hide their hand. They throw rocks and hide their hands. That is an essential thing that they got going on right now. What we're gonna do is, hold on, I want to pull one thing up real quick here for our future. We're gonna look in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just hop right into this, and I'm gonna start by reading the one scripture that many of us that are Hebrews are familiar with. This scripture, and we pretty much get the Most High dropped a big old hint for us right then and there. But the Christian theologists, they like to say that this was already fulfilled already. They go back and be like, oh, this was Egypt and blah, 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 blah. Even though that doesn't line up. And I'm going to tell you why that don't line up. It's another fodder for folks that try to say, oh, Egypt was when it all happened, and Egypt was when this was fulfilled. That's not true, because there was a certain group of people that were not ruling in Egypt until after that. But we'll get there. We're going to go to Genesis, and I'm going to start at 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. So, number one, whenever these stupid niggas, these FBA and these, oh, I'm Indian, we natural, we from here, and they want to say that this is our land, they don't read scripture. They're stupid. That's why I'm just going to tell you straight up, they're stupid. Anybody that says this crap, oh, we're not African, we from here, they're stupid. You are not just ignorant, you are stupid. because that is the most low IQ, zero IQ, like not even IQ isn't even a real thing. That's just a negative brain cell. Like your brain cells aren't even firing. You just got the basic stuff to keep you alive going, my nigga. Like that is just the stupidest thing ever. Like right here in scripture. So you're dumb. I'm sorry. If you're an FBA, you're dumb. You need to leave that crap alone. It's a psyop anyways. You're just dumb, because here it says plainly a land that's not theirs. It's not going to be our land. So that aside, also the nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Now, out of all the things, the Most High could have said, why did he mention Amorites? Why did he mention these Amorites? We're gonna find out just who exactly are these Amorites. Who are these people? And oh man, hold on, y'all. This stupid thing. There we go. I didn't mean to drag it. So this is from World History Encyclopedia. I like pulling stuff up like this because, a lot of times niggas, if I put it in a nice little presentation, oh, you just did it. Oh, for the people that need their stuff in the white bottle that be like, oh, it's not an official source and blah, 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 blah. I'm pulling from your people. I'm using your people's sayings, and I'm also using their AI as well. So if you got beef with this, you need to go holler at the white man that you judge, that you love so much before you try to come check me. All right. The Amorites were now... You're going to hear this word a lot. And it honestly, it pisses me off. I'm going to be straight up with you. It honestly pisses me straight off. This is the most, you can tell who's in charge when you read these things. The Amorites were a Semitic people who seem to have emerged from Western Mesopotamia, modern-day Syria. At some point prior to the 3rd millennium BCE in Sumerian, they were known as the Martu, or the Tendum, in the the 3rd period. In Akkadian by the name of Amuru, and in Egypt as Amar, all of which means Westerners, or those of the West. Keep this in mind. As does the Hebrew name Amorite. So, number one, the name Amorite isn't even a name for them. It just means those that came from the West. This is already implying the nature of who they are, and I'm going to show you why they said them that. They worship their own pantheon of gods with a chief deity named Amuru, also known as Belusadi, Lord of the Mountains, whose wife, Belit Seri, was Lady of the Desert, which became a designation for the people, as the Akkadians also referred to them as the people of Amuru, and to the region of Syria as Amuru. There is no record of what the Amorites called themselves. The god of the Amuru's association with the mountains and his wife with the desert suggests that they may have originated in the area of Syria and the Mount Hermon. Now, Syria, these most of these places are the made up modern colonizer names. Pretty much everything in that Middle East is just a big mishmash of jumble. Just you need to know that don't even exist. None of these nations and none of these people were who they were originally. They've all changed their names so they could try to hide. And I'm going to show you how they do and why they do, and why we are in this current situation where we are. We're going to see why that there's a certain people who are the dominant class in all the countries, and then there's another people who you always see who are the subservient class in all the countries, and why you notice that certain things only come from people with melanin, and you start noticing some things. So I'm getting a little ahead, but we're gonna go there. So this is what the first description of them, what they are. Their origins are unknown. Their precise history and their their origins are unknown, and their precise history until they settle in cities like Mari, Ebla, and Babylon is equally mysterious. So they don't know where they came from. All they know is these people came from the mountains from the West, and all of a sudden they started settling in cities. Funny thing is, these were cities that were already established with other people. Anyway, from their first appearance in the historical record, the Amorites had a profound impact on history of Mesopotamia and are probably best known for the kingdom of Babylonia under the Amorite king Hammurabi. The span between blah, 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 their timelines don't mean a thing. Mesopotamia is known as the Amorite period, during which their impact on the region can most clearly be discerned, but there is no doubt that they influenced the people of the various cities long before that time, and their impact was felt after. Don't you see how they spoke so highly of them? They were, for people that was unknown. Isn't that kind of, don't you see how they kind of hyping them up? Like, like they really, for them to say that they don't know who they are, they really speaking pretty highly of these folks. They talking, pretty nice about these Westerners who came down from the mountains. Let's go into now we're going to see what the Sumerians said about it. Again, I want y'all to pay attention to the language that is used and how these things are described and talked about. This is key and important. When you're disseminating information, you have to look at things and see there's usually things that come in a tone that is neutral and things that come in a tone that, as the young kids would say, they're glazing. And then a lot of things that you read from official stuff, they glaze these jokers a lot. The Amorites, also known as Martu, were an ancient nomadic group of Semitic. Again, I got a problem with this, but we're going to keep going. People who eventually grew to take over the Akkadian Empire and the Sumer under the famous king Hammurabi. Now, those who don't know, Hammurabi is actually well talked about. He's a pretty famous guy from Babylon I did a lot of stuff in history, and they did a lot. Again, they glazed this man, Hammurabi. Hammurabi was talked about a lot. He was given a lot of clout and stuff. So, and established the civilization of Babylonia. The Akkadians and the Sumerians called them Amuru, and they were the first to establish the city of Old Babylon, and established it from a small city within the Akkadian Empire to a major city and an important cultural center for the entire region. The Amorites were also greatly influenced in bringing the god Baal / Marduk into the Babylonian religion. One of the major points of the Amorites are that they occupied key centers of trade. So the Amorites came down, and we see that they came into Babylonia. They started Babylonia, but then, they started what they call Old Babylon. There were two Babylons. There was Old Babylon that was started by them, and then they took over the empire that was there, the Akkadians, and that's when Hammurabi united everything and made it Babylon. That's when Baal worship came in. That's when pretty much the Babylon that we all love and know of today, not really love, hate. Some of y'all love it. Most of us hate it. The Babylon, the first iteration of Babylon came to be. Now, we've heard a lot about Babylon, and unless you've dug deeper, I know for me, it was my first time finding out Hammurabi was an Amorite. I didn't know Hammurabi was an Amorite. I thought he was a part of those Middle Eastern dudes from Iraq and stuff that they always show you, the Sargons of Akkad and all this and that. He was this Middle Eastern man. Not that they came in and they took over and Hammurabi was the one who united everybody. He went around, beat up all the other tribes, and he was the one who created the first civilization of Babylon. Then that's why when the god Marduk and Baal came into play. So what we're seeing is these people came down from the mountains. Nobody knows where they came from. They assume they're Semitic. More on that later. And they came in and they took over Babylon. They came into the place. They took over key centers of trade, and then they took it over. All right, let's go a little further. Some believe that the origins of the Amorites go back much longer than we previously accepted, can be dated. This is where I tell you that their dating is trash, because there's this temple complex that was found called Gobekli Tepe. And that pretty much was an old ancient temple construct that was around the time that they date. Their dating stuff is garbage, but this temple dated in a time where the mainstream knowledge said, oh, nobody had temples. There was no organized religion. They were all just hunter-gatherers, and they just went around and blah, 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 blah. But yet they found a temple complex. So whenever you see dates and all that, that's just trash to throw in there. All these big numbers of dates. That's just how they confuse you. My personal opinion is it's not been too long since the Messiah walked this earth. It hasn't been that long. They've just put so much of a smoke screen up and told you millions and billions. Remember that the earth was millions and billions of years old and billions of years. Like, they're goofy. It's just like the Bible said, that they will come in and they will change times and seasons. They are liars. This is why the devil will be shown, and everybody going to be like, oh, this the dude that was confusing the whole world. This the dude that had everybody thinking they was on a spinning ball going 66,600 miles an hour around the sun, but you can't feel it. But if you get on a little old those little spinny things in the playground, you can feel that. But this big giant earth spinning way faster than that, you can't feel it. But that's a whole nother story. It was originally believed that the ancient Semites, the Amorites, emerged from barren wastelands of Saudi Arabia. However, based on Sumerian texts, it has been proven otherwise. The first mentions of the Amorites are in the Semitic-speaking land of Ebla from around 25 BC. They keep trying to throw Semitic in there. Just keep noticing this. This is a well-crafted lie. I'm telling you, these jokers are liars. And yeah, I'm gonna just keep going. Based on their perspective, the Amorites were a nomadic group that lived in Mesopotamia. That's what they were. I believe the Sumerians, over you jokers who are sitting here trying to add this secondhand praise to these creatures, these things that came out of the mountains. The Amorites are mentioned by the Sumerians around 2400 BC in their clay cuneiform tablets. They refer to them as being located in the area of Asia Minor and being nomadic, stemming from an area known as Jebel Bashiri, or the mountain of the Amorites. This suggests that they lived in areas around the Zagros Mountains that form the source of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. According to an ancient Sumerian tablet, the Martu, remember that's another name for them, the Westerners, who know no grain, the Martu, who know no house nor town, the boors of the mountain. That word boors mean they're like troglodytes. They're unclassed, they're uncouth. They have no, they're not civilized. And that's what that word boors would mean. The Martu who dig up truffles, that's little mushrooms and stuff in the ground, who does not bend the knee. Now, when you see words in brackets like this, that's when that's when the white man trying to tell you what to think. That's not what it is. When he may say not to bend the knee, that means that they're disruly. They're disobedient. They have no authority. They don't respond to authority and laws. They pretty much are the strongest hand wins. You got the strongest club, you are the leader. You can beat everybody up and everybody's scared of you. You are the leader. Might is right with these people. This is where you get this strong survival of the fittest mentality that comes from. This is where this animalistic mindset that we see in the modern day comes from. So they does not bend the knee, who eats raw meat and has no house during his lifetime, who is not buried after death. Since the Amorites were nomadic, they would force themselves onto any land they needed to graze their massive herds. The Amorites were ruled by tribal chiefs and were a fierce race of people. The Sumerians were so threatened by their encroachment that they tried to build a massive wall that stretched from the Tigris to the Euphrates to contain them. Doesn't that sound like the Great Wall of China? Doesn't that sound like the Great Wall? I'm just throwing that out there. That sounds like that sounds very interesting. Especially when you consider that the implements, those don't know, implements on the wall is where you would have your archers where they can like have cover and then they could pop out and shoot jokers when they, whenever they need to. The implements are on the wrong side of the Great Wall of China. So unless they were shooting arrows at their own people, that wasn't their wall. That wasn't their wall. They've been replacing the implements now and moving them, post haste now after, people been kind of calling it out, but those implements were on the wrong side. So who really built that wall? And was it really to keep China safe, or was it to keep them Chinese out? Or they, used to be called the Mongols, but more about that later. So it is believed that a massive drought around 2200 BC brought them down from the mountains and into fertile regions of Mesopotamia, where they managed to overthrow the third dynasty of Ur and took control of several Sumerian and Akkadian city-states such as Ishin, Ishinuma, Kish, and Larsa. They also established the fledgling city of Babylon during this period as well. Since the Amorites were much more populous than the Sumerians, they were eventually able to inherit the government and establish their own rule after native power declined. The Amorites were also described by kings of Akkadian Empire. For example, civilization of Martu was considered one of the four quarters of their map surrounding the capital of Akkad. The Akkadian king, known as Naram Sin, was known to have launched a military campaign against the Amorites, and the following king, named Shar Khalid Sari, did as well. So these jokers were a pain in the butt for all the nations at that time. All the different nations that dealt with these jokers, they were a pain in their behind. They would come down, they would assume in their land, and they would start taking over. As we saw in the previous article, they took over trade routes. So they would come in and get into your money. They would get into the economy. They would get into things that would lead to money to get their influence up. As they got their influence up, that's when they started taking over these cities. And then they had the old city of Babylon. Then once their their pull and their influence was sufficient, they were able to take over the whole government. There were kings before Hammurabi in Babylon, but Hammurabi was the first Babylonian king to take out everybody else around him and make them submit to make Babylon the grand nation that it was. So in a way, Hammurabi was the Caesar of his time. Caesar was also known for going around and getting tribes that were out of pocket, like the Gauls. The Gauls, who were a nomadic tribe that were sometimes tied to the Vikings, who were also a nomadic tribe who would raid people and take stuff. They all had to be brought to heel by Caesar, which we know how that all ended up happening, but it eventually did happen. He did eventually bring it all together, which is why they still venerate Caesar to this day. So if you're paying attention, I'm showing you some similarities. I'm showing you that there's the connections across history, that this is why they don't want you to make connections in your mind. This is why whenever they want to talk about, a conspiracy theorist, they always show the dude making connections. Because when you start making connections, you start figuring out what's going on. And when you start figuring out what's going on, now you're starting to understand who the Most High was talking about and why we were constantly the people sent to fight these jokers. And it shows how stupid and goofy niggas look to this day, trying to join in with the very people your ancestors were fighting against. Your number one enemy. Everybody who's read the Bible and read through Kings and read through any type of Exodus and stuff, we are always fighting Amorites. When Jacob and all them, when our great ancestor grandmother was raped, when Jacob and all the patriarchs rolled in, all those cities they were rolling through were Amorite cities. When they went in the wilderness with Caleb and them and they were scouting out the land and they saw the giants and stuff, those were Amorites. I want y'all to make these connections. We're not just talking about a people. We're talking about creatures pretending to be people. This is what we're doing because we see this in the Bible. We see all about the Bible, where they come from. But I'm going to get a little ahead of myself. So let me, I'm going to go, do I want to read this? I'm not going to read this one, actually. I'm going to read about Hammurabi. Hammurabi, born Babylon, now in Iraq, was the sixth and best known ruler of the first quote unquote Amorite dynasty. How many of y'all knew that Hammurabi was Amorite? How many of y'all knew that the old Babylon was run by Amorites? I know I didn't know. I didn't know that they were. I thought, again, this was Iraqi, the whole thing that they try to say, but didn't know that these jokers was Amorites. And now, the best known ruler of the first Amorite dynasty of Babylon, reigning from blah, 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 blah. Noted for his surviving set of laws, once considered the oldest promulgation of laws in human history. Bullcrap. Like all the kings of his dynasty, except his father and grandfather, Hammurabi bore a tribal Amorite name belonging to the Amunamum. Only scantly information exists about his immediate family. Isn't that convenient? His father, Sin Mubalit, and his sister, Itlani, and his firstborn son and successor, Sam Suiluna, are known by name. When Hammurabi succeeded Sin Mubalit about the blah blah, he was still young, but as was customary in Mesopotamia, Roman royal courts at the time, he had probably already been entrusted with some official duties in the administration of the realm. In that same year, Rim-Sin of Larsa, who ruled over the entire south of Babylonia, conquered Isin, which served as a buffer between Babylon and Larsa. Rim-Sin later became Hammurabi's chief rival. The reconstruction of Hammurabi's rule is based mainly on his date formulas, significant act of king. Hammurabi's rule is based mainly on his date formulas. I wanted to skip this. Years were named for a significant act of a king that had performed and all that kind of stuff. These show him engaged in the traditional activities of an ancient Mesopotamia king, building and restoring temples, city walls, and public buildings, digging canals, dedicating cult objects to deities in the cities and towns of his realm, and fighting wars. His official inscriptions commemorating his building and activities corroborate this, but add to no significant information. So basically, he came in and they started doing what normal people in the Mesopotamia did during that time. Remember, when these people came out the mountains, they had no home. They died and were buried nowhere. They were like, where did this drive come from? Where did they learn these things? They started to assimilate to the culture of the Sumerians. That's what they were doing. What the Sumerians were the ones who first created laws. Sumerians were the ones who that we know of, that they said that they mark of, that created all these writing implements and did all this stuff. So now all of a sudden they're throwing all this on Hammurabi when Hammurabi did nothing more but come in and adopt what was already there with the Sumerians and adjust it to his own Amorite sensibilities. These dudes were known for coming in and taking over. The Bible even talks about them coming in and taking over. Here's another one we're going to read about, Hammurabi. And again, listen to the tone. This period, particularly, this is from a military website, globalsecurity.org. It's pretty interesting. And I was pretty interested to find this on this website. I was like, this is talking about militaries, and it's like almost like a kind of a website talking about like the government and stuff like that. And they're talking about Babylon. Like, as you see on the side, they got homeland security, weapons of mass destruction, space. It's talking about like military stuff in our natural world, but they're talking about Babylon and Hammurabi. Interesting. This period, particularly during the reign of Hammurabi, is regarded as one of the highlights of ancient civilization. The collection of laws promulgated by him form a framework of laws governing society to this day, moving justice from the whims of the powerful to a codified regulation applicable to all society. So, in other words, that's how they used to run things. Right makes right. Might makes right. That's what I was trying to say. Might makes right, and that is what they went by. Then they tried to come and say, "Oh, there's laws in place," and blah 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 blah. Now, those who know how these laws and stuff are done, you know that the laws pretty much just basically was the same thing. Might makes right. It just said that, oh, you just can't fight back. We can oppress you, but you can't fight back. This is the status of how Babylon does laws and how they still do things to this day. It's very difficult to define the exact boundaries of Babylonia and Assyria, since these varied so greatly at different periods of their history. In general, they occupied the region watered by the Tigris and Euphrates. Babylonia lay to the south and occupied the alluvial plain between the two rivers, from the point where they most nearly approached each other on the north of the Persian Gulf on the south. The whole Babylonia was well watered by rivers, a fine system of canals, and the fertility of the country has received much comment from both the Oriental and classical writers. The principal cities of Babylonia were Eridu, Larsa, Erech, Shirpula, and Lagash, Ishin, and Maru. In the south, and Babylon near Hile, Borsippa, Kuthua, Sippar, Kish, Nippur, and Agade. The prevailing view is that the Semites of the Amuru came out of Arabia as barbarians. Now they're coming out of Arabia. Wait. The Sumerians said they came from the mountains. Now y'all saying they came from Arabia. You see how they trying to see how they muddy the water? See how they muddy the water? I trust the Sumerian accounts over any modern accounts. The prevailing view is that the Semites of Amuru came out of Arabia as barbarians in the latter part of the 3rd millennium BC. And later, the Amorites established cities on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers and made Babylon, a town to the north, their capital. The Amorite capital is known as Old Babylon, and the Amorite Empire is known as the Old Babylon period. The Amorites, who like the Akkadians spoke a Semitic language, not true, infiltrated the area around Babylon, curing this final dissolution of the Sumerian epoch, gradually gaining power. Now, I'm going to say this again. They infiltrated the area around Babylon, curing this final dissolution of the Sumerian epoch, gradually gaining power. They waited and they were draining the power of the Sumerians. As they were draining the influence and the power of the Sumerians, they started filling in and taking over those spots. These cities, the city where they named Babylon was actually an old Sumerian city. This is why you still see a lot of Sumerian reliefs and a lot of Sumerian things within Babylon reliefs, because the Amorites came in and took over Babylon. They didn't have a culture that they brought. They took over the Babylonian culture and added Baal. That's the thing that they brought in. They added Baal. All these laws and all that stuff, that was the Sumerian thing. Again, they take them and they modify them to make them for their own wicked needs. So these people didn't have their own culture. Remember, they didn't bow the knee. So that means that they didn't have a king structure or nothing like that. They were just running around picking up truffles. That means that they didn't know how to farm. They were just going around like animals. They would die and they would just leave them there. They wouldn't even bury their dead. They just left them there like an animal that dies in the street. They were literally animalistic. Do we not see similarities with a certain group of folks today? Do we not see similarities of a people that always claim a culture, but when you really get to the indigenous of every area, they're the arbiters and the ones who carry that culture? And these people who seem to lack a certain skin pigment just adopt this culture? Do we not see this common trend going even to this day? Again, the only thing that changed is they just took away our understanding. They gave us all collective amnesia. But as we start going through history, you can look at the nature. A person's nature very rarely changes. Hebrews, even though we are in situations that we should be rabid animals, we still, deep down inside, have a softer nature. When you find a dude that just want to fight, is angry all the time, that's the most broken behind man. That man is manifesting trauma. That's what that is. They like to show you the angry black man and the angry black woman. All you're seeing is manifested trauma. Because in a normal situation with no trauma, you don't see us acting like this. But we see a lot of people who are in situations where they run the system. They are the head and not the tail at the moment. They are the ones that the system favors, yet they still have a very animalistic nature. Isn't that interesting? I just find that very, very, very interesting. So I had a conversation with the AI about the Amorites. And what we got to understand is the Amorites were a people that were decentralized. And that's what made them so dangerous, because it was kind of like the Hydra. You would cut one off and another head would grow. They weren't all one group of people. They were a bunch of various different groups. And they were tied in with, every time you saw cave dwellers and giants, that's where Amorites seem to follow. If you read in Jasher, when the patriarchs were fighting all those cities, it talked about how they came across mighty men, how they came across various giants and hybrid creatures and stuff that they were fighting. These were the things that they were fighting. And remember, these were Amorite cities. When they were facing, when David and all of them were going against the Philistines and stuff, those again were Amorites amongst them. What we're seeing is, what we got to understand is, this is their number one greatest move. Because when they had with Babylon, you assume that they tell you, oh, it's Iran, it's Iraqi. So you just think Middle East in your new modern mindset that they give you. You don't think that it was taken over by Amorites unless you look and read deeply into it and find out, wait a minute, most of these jokers that they talk about in Babylon, these were all Amorites. These are the same people that the Bible talked about that we was going to have to, that the Most High mentioned in the same breath as us being under being under as our enemies. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. So I had talked to the AI, and I was like, hey, the Horites, were they not a tribe associated with Amorites? And, it gives me the little usual. It goes, while the Horites and Amorites were distinct peoples, the biblical text often associates them closely, both by listing them together in historical accounts and at times using the names in a way that suggests a broader cultural identification. Historical and geographical association. The Bible clearly associates the Horites and Amorites when describing military campaigns, often listing them as distinct groups with the same region. One source even notes that the Hivites of Shechem, remember, Hivites is another name for Horites, descended from the Horite Ebal. Wait a minute, wasn't Ebal? Wasn't that one of the places, one of the cities that we just talked about, that we mentioned in the? Hold on, I'm gonna get rid of this one. I'm going to get rid of you, and I want to bring back our old. Let's see here. He listed all the cities, and Ebal. I don't know, it might not have been on this one. Ebal was mentioned as another one of the places where they were from. In another one of this probably wasn't another thing I got off because I didn't want it. But Ebal was another place they were from. Again, these were mountains. Also, remember, the Horites were also mountain dwellers. These people came down from the mountains. They were also called, one source even notes the Hivites of Shechem descended from the Horite Ebal and were called Amorites by the patriarch Jacob. And remember, the name of people became cities. So even though this Horite Ebal was the patriarch, they would name cities after them, and they would name a lot of cities after their family or themselves. You read that a lot. Again, I highly recommend the book of Jasher. When you start seeing after Noah gave his sons what they should do and started separating the land, when they started making cities, they started naming the cities after themselves and after their wives and their sons and things like that. This suggests that in certain contexts, the names could be used interchangeably for related groups. Modern scholarly association. Contemporary scholars associate the Horites with the Hurrians, a significant Bronze Age people who lived north of the Dead Sea. In contrast, the Amorites are identified as ancient Northwest Semitic-speaking people from the Levant. See, here it goes again. They keep wanting to bring them in as Semitic people, but I'm going to tell y'all why in a second. From this perspective, they are separate groups. Both are crucial for understanding the region's complex ethnic makeup. Viewing them as subgroups, some perspectives have seen both groups as part of the wider ethno-linguistic family or waves of settlement. For example, some scholars see Hurrians, Amorites, and Horites as groups that came to form the later Hebrews. Nonsense. Others note that the terms like Rephaim, Enakim, Horites, etc. are frequently designated simply as Canaanites or Amorites, using the latter as a general term for earlier inhabitants. So what you got to understand is the AI gets its information from the popular culture and the information that's out there. They have, as you saw from all the documents that I read, they are trying to pass these people off as us, as Semitic. And now, it is shown here that they are pretty much right there along with the Amorite, the Horites. They're pretty much right along in that family. So now are we starting to understand why the Most High hated Esau? Because again, read your book of Jasher. Esau gave daughters to the Horites. They combined families. They joined up together. Esau wanted power. They gave him power because all of his children became dukes. They became leaders. This is why you started seeing dudes like Antipater. Antipater was a guy who teamed up with Caesar because he knew Caesar was going places, and this is what they do. He was an Edomite, but Edomite came from an Amorite source. He had some Shemitic blood in him because of Esau. So not all of them have the Semitic blood. Only a small amount of them have Semitic blood in them. But because of Esau's foolishness, they can write this nonsense in these letters, which is why Esau pretty much caught the ire of the Most High Yah. Because again, all through history and that from the Hebrews, the main thing the Most High had us wiping out was Amorites. When David was working for the king, hiding for Saul, and he was working for that one foreign king, and they wanted him to go raid Hebrew settlements, he was actually raiding Amorite cities and cleaning up what Joshua and all them left over. They were supposed to murk all the Amorites that were all around there, but they wanted to keep them as vassals to flex their power instead of just going through and murking all the parasitic trash that they are. But they didn't do it for clout and for money. Their greed got the better of them. And now here we are today because the Most High said, okay, since you don't want to do that, they're going to be a foil for you. And a foil they were. So David had to come back in, and David cleaned up all the mess that them jokers was there and that was left over. He was going through, and those were the cities he was raiding and taking out. So when the Horites got that blood from Esau, that's when they started to show out. That's why you started seeing them in all the different places. When you see Pontius Pilate and his brother over there in Rome, those are Edomites tied in with the Amorites. Again, they did the same thing in Rome. They came in, they ingratiate themselves with people in power, and they started building their influence. That's what they were doing even with the Pharisees, because they didn't kill them, and they were like, oh, y'all got to convert or leave. So they converted, and what did they do? They raised their influence, so they had a whole political party designed around themselves with Edomites, all in them. So we know about these folks is that one, they're wild and bestial by nature, but two, they're also masters of disguise. They can come in, they'll blend in, they'll take over important political areas and finance and influence, and they gain their influence and take over empires from the inside, usually without very little fighting or very little destruction. If you read about Egypt, after we had left Egypt with the Exodus, Egypt was later conquered by the Hyksos. The Hyksos were Amorites. And they came in and they did the very same thing. They took over by gradually getting ingratiated into the politics, getting ingratiated into the finance sector. And then they took over, and thus that's when Egypt changed and shifted. So a lot of the times when you're seeing Egyptian culture, quote unquote, it's not pure Egyptian culture. It's culture that has been assimilated and taken over by these Amorites. And they start influencing and putting their nonsense in there. We also see the same thing done with the church. The church is an Amorite creation. Because what happened after Rome perished and went away? Okay, we keep coming in and ruling by conquest only. Let's try this a little different. They came in and they co-opted the whole belief system of the Hebrews and modified it. The Christianity is the perfect example of how the Amorites move. Christianity came in and it takes all the things of Yah that would put Yah and have you live holy and makes excuses for it, does it not? I don't have to follow the law. I got the law of liberty. I have liberty through Christ. Oh, you don't have to tell me my freedom in Christ. I have freedom. Even though the Most High told Moses he couldn't modify a rock for an altar, I can change a whole pagan, nasty, filthy holiday and turn it into a day for the Most High and make it holy. Even though a priest was once told that if something holy touches something unholy touches the holy thing, it doesn't become holy. It makes it unholy. So all these examples in the Bible, no, we just going to toss out the Old Testament. We're just going to toss out half of the books. Oh, this isn't canon. This isn't canon. Any book that would had you to read about them as a people and start making connections, they removed it. It's not canon. Left only 66, a convenient number, books. And then have these jokers out here when you talk about Jasher and Jubilees and the Wisdom of Solomon and all these other books that are necessary, Tobit and whatnot. Oh, well, Susanna, the white man says Susanna is it's not inspired. Who told you it wasn't inspired? Who said it wasn't inspired? Some raggedy old white man that also co-signed, that later on co-signed the slave trade? Are we serious? The same group of people that have issues fiddling and tiddling on young boys? The same group of people that have a throne underneath a giant snake? Them the people you want to listen to when it comes to your Bible? Okay. Okay. It's not inspired because the Amorites told you it's not inspired. Come on now. These people have been hiding in plain sight forever. This is why, even when they did colonization wasn't something new. Colonization was what they do. That was just them doing it on a worldwide scale. Versus doing it on a small city scale, the Amorites went global. Is it not the same thing? What happened with colonization? What did they do? They would come in, they would kill the men, they would take the women, because, once the women see the new power is in place, a woman going to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to go with the power. Most women going to go with power, but some women didn't go with the power, and the women that didn't go with, they got raped and brutalized, and children were born, and they raised these bastard children up and positioned them as natives to that land. We see it happening in real time right now in South Africa. These idiots is out here trying to say that they're native to Africa. These jokers can't even sit in the sun without burning. And you want to tell me you're native to this place? The place that you say that was your homeland has the highest, biggest number of skin cancer in the world, but you're native to Africa? Why would Most High create a people that can't sit up under the sun that he created? That seems counterintuitive. That doesn't seem right. That'd be like a fish that's allergic to water. Well, how kind of fish would that be? I'm a fish. I get in water, but I need some SPF 15 because, the water burns my skin. I can't be in water. Come on now. It's obvious when you start putting two and two together and you start seeing some things and seeing how these jokers are moving. They were even in Syria. I will show you. This is Hadad, the name and god of Syrian kings. So it says the name Ben-Hadad means son of Hadad. This is in reference to the god Hadad, god of Syria. In this mythology, he was the storm god, the god that provided rain. Doesn't that sound familiar? Again, I told y'all, syncretism is because they're all the same. They're just saying it in different languages. This is the origin of all these false deities that we see coming around. This is why the Most High constantly had us destroying this plague, this virus, this filth that had infiltrated the earth. Because I'm going to tell you where they came from. And pay attention to how you've seen the Sumerian reliefs. Go and look at the Sumerian reliefs and notice, why is it that the Pope wears a mitre on his head that's shaped like a fish, which is similar to the mitre that the Babylonians wore, which is also shaped like a fish. Actually, they would even show some that were in a full fish outfit. that were doing priestly duties, dressed as a whole fish. You will also see these bird-like creatures, half man, half bird creatures doing these same things with like weird priestly duties and stuff like that. If you go back to the creation narrative, lizards and birds were both created out of the water. There was a set of birds that were created from the land, and there were a set of birds that were created alongside lizards from the water. So if a great flood came, how would creatures survive? How did the Nephilim come back? We know they came back. Read your book of Jasher. You see where the fallen spirits started coming and taking Noah's sons astray. And Noah freaked out and sought the Most High and said, hey, they're back again. Are we going to let this happen again? We saw what happened before, right? They're back. And that's when the Most High was like, okay, you know, some of them I'll take out, but I got to leave some of them on there because me and these watchers, we got a thing going on right now, and I'm about to show the whole of heaven and earth who I really am. So I got to leave him some pieces on the board lest he say I'm not fair. So he left some, he locked some up, and he left some spirits, and he left some of them things there and gave Noah a book about how to go and basically get herbs and things from the grass to counteract the fallen ones, which is very interesting, but that's a whole nother story we'll talk about. So if you have a system set up where the water was coming over, the only thing that would survive is aquatic things, which is why when you start seeing these Sumerians and the first gods and stuff that they were coming back, they were all associated with fish, especially when the Amorites started coming in and taking over and Babylon started getting taken over. You start noticing more fish. Dagon was a fish god. We start noticing these water illusions. Why? Because these things came from the water after the flood. After the flood, these are the remnants of those creatures that shouldn't even exist. Those viruses, those things that the fallen watchers created, and that humans had a hand in too. Yeah, humans came in and did some miscegenation as well. But most of them are the leftovers from the fallen watchers that they bastard cheering that they sired in this earth. These were the leftovers that were there, and they were coming back and changing the story, saying, oh, we were gods, and oh, there was a good God, and I wanted to help everybody and give knowledge, but the bad God came and punished us, and so we had to fall to this state. And you know, this is where we fight against heaven. If you get into Chinese mythology there is a lot of that in their mythology where these creatures were fighting against heaven to try to become immortal. When you read the book of Enoch, you'll see that the decree that Enoch read, that the Most High gave Enoch to read over the fallen watchers, was that yours will not be length of days. Yet these jokers were constantly chasing immortality. We even see, who do we see today doing that very same thing? Who do we see today doing this very same thing? Taking people's blood, taking all kinds of stuff, trying to integrate with machines. They're doing everything they can not to die. Yours will not be length of days. There's a subgenre in Chinese culture that deals with like Taoism. They call it cultivation or Shanxia. And in that is the whole, basically all these things are Nephilim. And all they're trying to do is live forever. And how they live forever is they take power from nature. They go to places with strong spiritual or energy, and they absorb the energy from there. Some of them, they call them Mo practitioners or demon practitioners. They'll suck energy directly from people. They'll use sex as a way to absorb energy. They basically are doing everything they can to absorb energy so that they can raise their internal level and live forever. Why is it that all these dominant cultures all share similarities with these Amorites and their origins, the Horites and all these different things? Why is it that they all share these similarities? We all know that we've seen giants, pictures of giants, and among them the Chinese giants. There's in Germany and all these different places, all these pictures of these giant people and giant men. We all know that they're born with horns and tails and all these different things. I remember the first time somebody told me white people are born with tails. I'm like, oh no, that's crazy. Oh, you're being racist. No, it's actually a thing. They are born with tails. They'll just cut it off. Some of them are born blue. This is a disease where they were born blue. I've talked about this before, where there was a whole family, real famous here in America, that were all blue, but they fixed it. It was a defect in their blood, and they fixed it. So now you still have people being born blue, but they just give them the shot, and it fixes that problem. So these genetic anomalies still manifest themselves. There's a whole family in South America with 6 fingers and 6 toes, and they celebrate it. Like they just had a kid last time. Oh, it was probably years ago when I read that article. They had just had a new baby, and they were celebrating the fact that he also had 6 fingers and 6 toes. Again, you have to make the connections. That's what they don't want you to do. When you start looking and seeing, I don't believe in coincidence. I'm not a person who believes in coincidence. That is the one thing I'm like, no, I'm sorry. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, my guy, that's not a chicken. That's all I'm gonna say. Ben-Hadad is a dynastic name. There are 3 kings in the Bible recorded in the numerous passages above called Ben-Hadad. So it goes in and it talks about all the different Ben-Hadads, 1 and 2. And then this one here talks about Ben-Hadad the third was the son of Hazael and the lost of the Israelitish conquest. His father had made, now mind you, if these people were Semitic, why was Israel coming in and destroying them? And I'm going to show you that Ben-Hadad was also an Amorite. Ben-Hadad was the son of Hazael and lost to the Israelite conquest his father had made. Thrice did Joash of Israel smite him and recovered the cities of Israel. So if we go into this other book here, this is a book called Amorite Personal Names in the Mari Text, a structural and lexicon study. This whole book is just a bunch of Amorite names and gives you their meaning and all these different things and, all the different names that come from Amorites. And if we read here on this page 158 of this book, you'll see Hadu, Northwest Semitic, not true. Because again, if it was Semitic, why were the Israelites fighting their own people? If that was the case, why were they just told to come and destroy them? Why? If they were supposed to be family? Why? Because they weren't Semitic. They had a blood tie because of Esau, but they were not natively Semitic. They're not. They had a small amount of them with Semitic blood, but that doesn't mean the people of the Amorites were Semitic. If you want to really say, that's why you see a lot of these politicians and people always talking about DNA and genetics and stuff like that, because amongst them being a tribe of multiple people, the way to have a royal family was by tracing genetics. So if your genetics matched a certain line, you were the one that were placed in charge. So the ones that we see aren't even the ones with the Semitic blood. They just pretended. The ones that you don't see, who are ruling from the background, the ones who the rulers we see, the President Trumps and the BBs and all these guys, they go and they talk to these people who we don't even know their name. Those are the ones that they answer to, and those are the ones with the bigger blood ties. They have the blood ties to Esau, and they have a blood ties to the Nephilim. You have to understand. It's like you've heard many different other Hebrew teachers say this. A lot of the people that we see in are not human. You might as well get this idea that, you're just dealing with a lot of these folks aren't human. And it's not just white people. I want to get this also out the way too. Not just because they're white doesn't mean they're an Amorite. Because Barack Obama exists. Well, what was his name? Kofi Amon, the dude that was over the United Nations all them years, that was married to the Ashkenazi woman. Don't get it twisted. They come in and they mold with other peoples. So they're not all pale-skinned. Don't get it twisted. Whenever you see these jokers, they always want to be, white people, they Gentile. Number one, the word Gentile, the word Gentile was changed by the Amorites. The word Gentile literally just means clan. It means a people. The word goy means people, a clan. Goys we were referred to as goys in the Bible because we were a people, a nation. So the word goy was used to describe the Israelites. How could it mean non-Israelites when it was used in the Bible to describe Israelites? The word Gentile doesn't mean a non-Israelite. It means a clan or a people. See, they do all this stuff to bring confusion. That's how they move. They put confusion into things. So you'll be running and chasing rabbit holes and chasing loopholes to nowhere while they put the real stuff in front of your face. So that word Gentile don't mean non-Hebrew. That word Gentile simply means a people. Goyim means a people, a nation. That's all it is. It's a word that means nation. If you want to talk about these people and who they are, they're Amorites. We're dealing with Edom and Amorites. And Edom was also infected. Edom really was a joining between Esau and the Amorites. That's where Edom came from. The Amorites weren't one people. Remember, the word Amorite means Westerners. It means the West. The West. People from the West, they had no designation because they were an amalgamation of small tribes. Now, if any of you have done history and understand the history of certain peoples, almost all of a certain group of people come from this type of setup. The famous ones, again, I talked about the Vikings. That's what they were. Why do you think they were making raids in England? Because they had no, if they had a city and trade and commerce, why were they raiding? Why were there various Viking clans all around, all separated? Because they were Amorites. They had giants and stuff with them too. And they also venerated bulls. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Hadu, Northwest Semitic deity, which is not true. Hadu had an important cult center in Aleppo and temples in a number of other towns known for the Mari. Remember, the Mari is another name for the Amorites. So, and here it's letters, and they had the letters and stuff they listen there. Upon and Mainam, and they mention all the stuff there in the different languages as a temple at Mari itself. And then they talk about the pantheon. See, they're quoting, whenever you see these things, they're quoting other books, they're quoting other works and stuff. This great frequency of this deity in the Mari names is a sharp contrast with the Bauer names where it occurs, but a few times, mostly in Tekwa names, see Bauer, blah, 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 on Hadad, Akkadian, Adad, and Baal Hadad. See, you know, this again, he's quoting other people talking about this. So Baal Hadad and Hadad are Mari names. The Mari were the Amorites. So Syria, the kings of Syria were also associated with these people. See, a lot of the times they didn't have a central name. So they took on the name of the people that they took over. They were the ultimate chameleons. They're the ultimate parasites. They come in and take over and then take your name and your culture and then demonicify it. That's my word. They demonicify it. They come in and make it even more demonic than it already is. Because again, Baal Hadad. So even in Syria, they had come in and taken over in that place. And they had all these kings, the Hadads. Again, this also talks about how we were fighting these kings. We have been constantly in battle with these things. I don't call them people, they're things. They're not human, they're creatures. They are not what was created by the Most High. They are the remnants of a race that he destroyed, and they just like cockroaches did not die. But they sit here and try to put themselves on high. They put grandeur upon their filthy names. They are trash. This is the trash that we deal with. When you say you love Babylon, when you listening to these goofy songs, just know that all these rappers and singers and all this, they bow down to these things. Hebrews, who were once destroyers of this stuff. Our ancestors murdered these things. 13 deep. They daddy and the 12 sons. 13 deep. Murdered city after city. So much so the other Amorite city down the river started seeing blood coming down the river and wondered what the heck was going on. We was murking these things back to back. And every time we didn't do it, we were led to our own destruction. And then we want to sit here and hold a fondness for these niggas that bow the knee to these creatures, to these things. You sitting here getting mad because somebody telling you that the music that you like is trash because you want to sit here and be an Amorite. Y'all niggas can be an Amorite if you want to. But this is the culture of this place, and I'm going to further prove it to you. I'm quite sure it's already apparent for those of us with thinking caps that is already thinking and putting two and two together that we're still under Amorite rule to this day. We are ruled by the Amorites. All the lands of the earth is ruled by Amorites. This is why the people in power are non-melanated and the indigenous are always melanated because they're the original humans. They were the originals. These fools come in and they mate and they mix with us and then they pretend to be us. Case in point, why the heck is Fat Joe out here saying nigga? That fat bastard is light-skinned with blue eyes. He's from Spain, the very place that put us in slavery. We should punch this nigga every time we see him saying that. Stop letting these Spaniards say nigga in front of you. You better check yourself and show some respect, you Amorite bastard. Tired of this crap, man. They've been pretending and playing to be us, and they're not. and their time of judgment is come. I had another conversation with the, what happened here? What did it do? Oh, it moved it up. I like the things being on the side, but sometimes it get on my nerves. So I'm going to show you, even the AI agreed with me. Amorites, I asked, we were having a conversation and we got to this point, and I say Amorites have a way of conquering by assimilation. Seeing as Canaanites had giants, Philistines had giants, it's not far-fetched to say that the Amorites had some assimilated Rephaim among them. In Jasher, when Jacob and the patriarchs fight the Amorite cities, they encounter giants. And then the AI is like, you're right. The pattern you're describing is exactly what the book of Jasher portrays. It presents the Amorites not as a monolithic ethnic group, but as a powerful, dynamic political entity that had successfully absorbed the remaining giant clans into their society. They didn't just absorb the giant clans. These bastards were the giant clans. They were them. They were of impure blood. Why do you think the Most High was very strict when he told us who to pick wives from? And I'm sorry, ladies, he told the men to pick wives. Women don't do the picking. All this choice, women choosing, we choose, that's rebellion. That's Amorites, the knowledge. So you want to sit here and be like, I'm choosing. You want to hold on to your hyena? You are an Amorite woman as a hyena. You are an Amorite man as a simp. Because Amorites put their testicles on the altar of Ishtar. Or Inanna, or Lilith, whatever you want to call her. Lilith is the female version of Baal. Baal gets sacrificed by kids. Lilith takes sacrifice from men, young boys, and young sacrifice. Why do you think they always came after us as men to kill us as kids? That's Lilith in action. It's the same spirits, the same deities, the same people, the same. This means that when Jacob and his sons went to war against a coalition of Amorite kings, they were not just fighting Semitic people. They weren't Semitic. They're not. They were things. Stop calling them Semitic. That pisses me off. They are things. They're creatures. They are not created by the Most High. They are abominations upon the earth. And we got to stop sitting here playing patty cake with these things. But we're directly confronting the legendary giant clans who lived under Amorite rule. Jasher describes them as mighty men who inspired great fear even in Jacob's brave sons. Okay. The book of Jasher is unique because it shows the Amorites as collector kings who had absorbed the remaining giant clans into their tribal confederations. This perfectly matches the biblical description of the Amorites being as tall as cedars and strong as oaks in Amos 2 and 9. The Amorites weren't just they were not Semitic people. Stop saying that. They were political superstructure through which giant clans, Rephaim, Emim, and Anakim projected power. The giants were among these things. How do you think they won after we fell? How do you think they took over the world? They didn't take over the world because they're so much smarter. They have fallen angels back in them. I told you, they were beasts. They're bestial. They're dumb. They're not smart. Anybody who's had any type of dealings with white supremacy and this nonsense that is we already know that these people are not nowhere near as mentally efficient as we are. They're not. I'm sorry. You have some amongst them that have some shining bits of brightness, but they're not smarter as us. Remember, the Hebrews were 10 times better than the priests in Babylon. The priests at that time were the people who will do what we call science. The temple, it was not a place of religion. It was a place of science. And we were 10 times better than these fools. Read Baal and Daniel and the dragon. Baal and the dragon. That account where Daniel pick apart these idiotic Amorite bastards. But, sorry, y'all. This done getting me worked up, man. The Amorites weren't just a Semitic people. They were the political superstructure through which the legendary giant clans, Rephaim, Emim, and Anakim, projected power. They allowed the warrior tribes of the old giant clans to join them, creating a ruling class of giant kings. That's not true. They were the giants in the ruling class. That's what they don't want to tell you. That's why you have stories about these old Hercules, giant, Gilgamesh, all these different Amorites and descendants or even I believe Gilgamesh might have been before the flood. So Gilgamesh was an ancestor of these jokers. This is where they come from. This is who they are. The Bible tells you of their nature. They were violent and wild. I remember talking to a non-Hebrew man one day, and I was talking about, hey, stuff is looking like it's getting crazy, man. You should always make sure you got some backups in case stuff look crazy. I got a gun. I don't need to save up for anything. Your first thought is to rob somebody, my dude? You got the ability to go and save up and have your own storehouse, but your first thought is robbery? They not like us. They not like us. That's all I'm saying. They not like us. We keep trying to integrate with these people. We keep, you got jokers that be wanting to get with these people. You got these goofy behind men that's out here. I just seen a story where a Hebrew man lost his life over a doggone Anglo woman because he was talking to her and her goofy, crazy ex came up there and shot and killed that man. All these Hebrew women that's coming up in boxes, in pieces, messing with these Anglo men. They cutting them apart and destroying them, but you got these goofy hyenas online talking about something. Oh, my life is better than ever dating a white man. My life is better than ever dating a white man. They'll do stuff for that thing that they won't do for you. And that nigga don't even got full. It's the jury's still out on what level of human they got in them. I'm just keeping it 100. We already know most of these jokers are clones. That's something that they acknowledge amongst themselves. There are straight up Anglos that I follow that talk about this all the time with the orphan trains and how Benjamin Franklin was saying that they need more white people in the world because Europe was too dark. These are real quotes. You can go look up. Why would Benjamin Franklin say that Europe was too dark and they need more white folks in a nutshell? Why would he say that? Because they were small in number. Because they lived like animals and they didn't have big numbers. So they needed to use some of their ancestors' technology to bolster their numbers. Most of these jokers running around claiming white supremacy ain't nothing but a clone. You a test tube baby. Like, that's just the reality of what it is. This isn't racism. This isn't any looking down. Like, that's just what it is. Where in the world did all these orphan kids come from during the time of the orphan train? This is during the time where having sex out of marriage was a bad thing. You literally got the scarlet letter doing that kind of stuff. So this wasn't like today where hoeing is life. They actually had morals and a facade of morals, at least back then. So where did all these orphan trains come from and why were they mainly non-melanated people? I never saw an orphan train full of so-called black kids. All the stories show Anglos and the only black you see is a slave. So during that time of slavery, they was bolstering numbers. This was done in America and this was done in Europe. These orphan trains, go look them up. It's a very interesting thing. The incubator babies. Seinfeld openly admits, oh yeah, my grandfather was an incubator baby. The nigga's a clone. I'm sorry. A lot of y'all might be married to clones. Some of us got blood of clone in us. This is why the Most High said he's going to come and cleanse our blood because these raping nasty jokers been raping women since forever, which is why I'm sorry. I don't understand how Hebrew women can lay up under one of these things because look at the history of them. I don't understand how you as a man could do it as well. Because, bro, what, there's kids out there right now, these mixed kids that are saying, don't. There's one video I just seen with this one young Hebrew sister, because her dad was Hebrew, and she said, stop mating with these people. Stop making kids. They're coming and telling their horrible stories. There was one woman, she was talking about how her dad was Hebrew and her mom was German, and she would call them nigger bees. She called them nigger bees, her own daughters. She pushed colorism amongst them. The ones that looked more whiter, she favored them than the ones that looked more dark. And she was married to a whole Hebrew man. Don't think that yo sex is so good that you'll sex the racism out of them, my guy or my gal. They definitely will treat you like a fetish, but the nature of a people very rarely changes. There may be a small amount among them, the ones with the most human in them that can come out. But even then, why risk it? Why risk it? That's all I'm saying. The sons of Jacob versus the Amorite giants. This sets the stage for an incredible David and Goliath scenario where a handful of untrained shepherds relying on the untrained. That's the see, this is what I'm saying. They just be saying stuff they got from the nonsense because they were trained, because Jacob was using the arrow. They all had weapons and stuff that they was doing. They they weren't just a ragtag group of nobodies, bro. They came with that stuff. It's just that Yehuda was so strong, he ain't need no sword. He was slinging rocks. Who needs a sword when I can use the whole earth as my weapon? I just pick up a rock and slang it, knock the king off. The king stuck on the ground, and then he beat up 5 of these Amorite Nephilim things, and then came back and finished the king. The king couldn't even get off the ground while he whooping up on the other dudes. The bigger picture. The presence of these giant clans amongst the Amorites makes their defeat a powerful theological statement. It portrays God's deliverance of Israel not merely as a terrible territorial conquest, but as a direct confrontation with and victory over these legendary beings. This image of Israel destroying the descendants of the mighty men of old through divine power is a central theme of the conquest narrative. So, of course, I came in and I said that calling Amorites Semitic is a historical misnomer. They assimilated into societies. Their Semitic connection lies with Esau, which, given Yahuwah's anger with Amorite kings later down the line, it would explain why he hated Esau. You're making a crucial connection, and that gets to the heart of how the Bible and texts like the book of Jasher present the Amorites. Here we're going to go again. You are correct with the term Amorite is a complex historical misnomer. The Amorites were not a single unified ethnic group. Rather, the name was used by outsiders like the Sumerians to mean Westerners. This fluidity explains why scholars today struggle to categorize them. This was done on purpose. They weren't one central structure. They were multiple separate structures ruled by regional tribal warlords, as they said, the biggest bad who had the biggest fists in the different sections. Only when one bigger bad, like Genghis Khan, didn't that sound familiar? What Genghis Khan did with the Mongols? All the Mongols were all separated in all their tribes, and Genghis Khan, the biggest bad, came and united all of them. Come on now. We dealing with the same people, bro. These are the same people all over. They've just assimilated other things, but they are all the same. This is why when they play these little games on, oh, we're warring with this one, this one's warring with that one, they're playing games. This is what they always do. If you notice, Ray Diallo has a great video talking about the cycle of time and how after a certain period of time, the ruling power always goes through a shift, and there's always a reshuffling and a reshuffling and a reshuffling of the power. You know, you had the East India Trading Company, which was a simple thing of power. And then you had Europe come in and they became the central thing with England. I'm sorry, you had France, and then you had England come in and England was running everything. And then after the World War II, America came in and now America's doing everything. And now we're seeing that structure flip again. But what's happening with this flip is different because this flip is going to bring back those things. This is why they're talking about aliens and all this other stuff and all these different things in the day where they're gonna, let everybody know aliens. That's why they keep putting this in people's consciousness, because they're getting ready to bring back these nasty creatures that were already here. And these sorry bastards are gonna tell these idiots, "Oh, we created you. You're our creation," and these morons are gonna believe them when they're nothing but foul, disgusting miscarriages of life. They have no life. This is why they consume us and steal from us, because the Most High put the breath of life in humans, not in them. I remember growing up, I used to always see, why on the TV is always saying Black and Hispanics have this disease. Black and Hispanics have this disease, because mainly most of the so-called quote unquote Hispanics were actually melanated people, number one. And number two, they were trying to put and project that what sickness on us when they're far more sickly than us. Far more sickly. It wasn't until recent times when they were poisoning all the water and the air and everything on majors that you started seeing Hebrews having babies with Down syndrome and ADHD and all this other stuff. It was not a thing that was among us. It was rare. Very rare. Among them, common. I saw it a lot. I knew a couple folks back then. It really wasn't until I became older that I started seeing more Hebrews like this. We got to understand who we're dealing with and what they're dealing with. All they deal with is projection. Excuse me. Get some drink. I'm over here going in. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Excuse me. Connection to Esau and Edom. This directly addresses your point about Esau. The Bible records that when Esau settled in the hill county of Seir, he didn't wipe out the inhabitants, he assimilated them. The text explicitly says Esau's descendants intermarried with and took over the land of the Horites. This is precisely mirrors the Amorite method of infiltration. He didn't take over, he commingled. Therefore, when we speak of the Semitic connection of the Amorites, it is a connection forged through the Edomites, the descendants of Esau. Again, what did I say? There's only one group among them that has Semitic blood. As a whole, they're not. But the way they're writing these texts, it will make you think that they were. They were not. They're creatures. They barely got any claims into Ham. They had to assimilate with Hamites and Japheth. They assimilated with all of them. They did not exist. Because if you've seen them on their own, you will be like, what are these monstrosities and where did they come from? So they had to assimilate. Not everybody you see is human and got human blood. That's all I'm saying. We've been living in the matrix all our life, thinking everybody human and everything. Oh, out of Africa. Oh, black people moved and then their skin just gradually became white. That's stupid as all get out. That is dumb. That's stupid. That's evolution. The same people that say, oh, I don't believe in evolution will sit and tell you that out of Africa crap. That's a lie. Your kids' skin color don't change because of the environment that you're in. They may get a little lighter, but they always still dark. You don't just get non-nappy, non-kinky hair by just moving up north. What kind of nonsense is that? And that by that logic, everybody in England right now should have a blonde, straight hair. Every African out of England that moved there for years on years, descendants of Moors and whatnot. They should be out there with blonde hair. How it's funny how all these things that they say happened in the past, we see no evidence of them today. That's very interesting. Very interesting. But we just get a trust me, bro. Just trust me. Just trust me, bro. It's what I did. So remember, they were referred to these things as the West. President Vladimir Putin consistently equates NATO. Hold on, I got even better. It took me out of my one. Where is it? Here it is. This is the one I wanted. Let me move this up. The regional conflict in Ukraine, provoked by the West, has assumed elements of a global nature. The West see, we would think that it's just he's just we're literally in the West and they're the East. No, man, they're telling you who they are in front of their face. The West, they always refer to Babylon, the city that functions as Babylon, as the West. Ruled by a people who used to be called the people from the West. Oh, you still don't believe that? Oh, okay. You still don't believe that we're in Babylon and that we're run by Amorites run this place? Obelisk. The term obelisk, and this is history of early American landscape design from the National Gallery of Art. So this is a government website. This is from your government. So if you got beef with me saying this, your white daddy is bragging about this himself. Because some of y'all is love the Amorite milk. The term obelisk was used in the American colonies and early republic to refer to a slender shaft or pillar with four faces that diminished in width from the base of the pyramid to the top. Obelisks were generally made of wood, granite, marble, or as Jefferson prescribed for his tombstone, coarse stone. Why would Jefferson want an obelisk made of coarse stone? I thought they were Christians. Why wouldn't he get a cross? That's the Christian thing to do, isn't it? Why wouldn't he get a cross? Why didn't Jefferson get a cross? Why did Jefferson want an obelisk and not a cross? Because he's an Amorite. Because we're ruled by Amorites. These people have come in and taken over and they assimilate different cultures. And this is what they do. They assimilate and then pretend to be that culture going forward. It's a very demonic and slick way of moving things. And I know that it's not done by them because, again, remember, they used to not even bury their dead. They eat raw meat. Come on now, that should have been clue number one. Why is it that whenever I order a steak well done, all the Anglos look at me crazy? I don't want blood in my meat. I remember what our forebear Noah was told by the angel. that we don't eat the meat with the soul in it, the blood, that's the soul. You don't eat meat with the soul still in it. But these jokers love eating souls. They love to feast on souls. It's not just the ones we have here. There's even one the so-called folks that they want to say these goofy behind psyop camps. They be like, oh, the Native Americans and the Mexicans and they all a part of it too. Them jokers are also partakers of blood. Mexicans are bloodthirsty. Get into them. Look into them. Cult. What you call it? The gangs that they got and the stuff that they be doing. The jokers are demonic. In northern Russia, which is where those people from here that we so-called Indians come from, they have different traditions where they eat raw meat. I mean, they be even feeding it to the kids. I seen them. They were like a northern Arctic tribe, and they would kill the seals and eat them raw. Had that little baby chomping on that little piece of meat, raw as can be. Just cut it out the thing and hand it to the kids. Eat it raw. Again, I don't believe in coincidences, man. In the design landscape, the obelisk served two functions: as a garden ornament and as a monument with emblematic significance. Yeah, because it was a phallic symbol. It was a symbol of Baal. We see one here. We see the Washington Monument, which is one of the most well-known obelisks. We have another one. This was the monument of Lieutenant Governor Bull. This was a monument, an obelisk that was done there. Here we have a central view of a cemetery, and you have obelisks all up in there. As a matter of fact, if you go to a lot of those memorial cemeteries and mausoleums, you will see a couple of obelisks, especially in the older ones. You have another one. This was Mary Cushman, a memorial to Lieutenant Jacob Cushman. And here it is, Lieutenant Jacob Cushman and an obelisk. This is Paul Revere, a view of the obelisk erected under Liberty Tree in Boston on the rejoicings of the repeal of the stamp. And here is again, with all your so-called founding fathers, the Christians that they were, on an obelisk. All on obelisks. Again, you want to tell me these ain't the same people? Remember, the Hyksos, which were Amorites, took over Egypt. So it's no wonder that there's cities here called Cairo. There's a Cairo in America. I didn't know that. There's a Cairo in America. All sorts of cities in America named after Egypt, almost as if it's the same people. Almost as if it's the same people. We got the same deity as in Babylon. Because here we go in Babylon. Here's what they call the Black Obelisk in Babylon. They like to try to call them ziggurats. See, this is where the goofiness come in. They call them ziggurats because their shape is a little different. You know, they put little steps at the top. So they're like, oh, it's not an obelisk. It's a ziggurat. It's the same thing. Stop playing games with me. It's the same thing. The same thing. There's a gate. Actually, there's a Babylon gate in I think I showed y'all this before. The hold on. There's a Babylon gate in Hollywood. Again, the place where they go and do all they worship and do all they mess and all they stuff. Here you have, let's open the image in a new tab. Let's just do that. You can see the Hollywood Hills in the back. Here you have, remember what I told you about the birds, the bird half-man creatures doing priestly duties? Again, the bird half-man creatures, these are all associated with lizards. You have the tree of Sephiroth right here. You also have a tree, Yggdrasil, and the Vikings. Have a tree called Yggdrasil. There is a great tree in almost every single one of these jokers spread out cultures. They all venerate giant trees. At the top of the one tree in Hinduism, actually is I think what they call it. Is it the Temple of Marduk? It really was where the Temple of Babel was built. They said that's where Vishnu stayed at the very top. All of these things all come. Even the archway is shaped almost like an obelisk with the step top. even in the archway. This is in Hollywood. This is over there in Hollywood, right there. They got it right there set up in the movie theater. See, there's a Renaissance hotel right behind it. This is open. This is a good one here. Another good image side here, right here in Hollywood, in America. And then you got look here over to the side. You got the elephant deity over here, also venerated in Hinduism, also venerated in China, also venerated in Japan, also venerated in all the South Asian countries as well, like Myanmar and Thailand and all that kind of stuff. So you got Ganesh, as he's known in India. Ganesh on that side, bro. I'm just saying. They it's obvious. We're in the same thing. We're still in the same situation that our ancestors were in. Then you have here famous logos. All the famous logos of various businesses here in America. See, a lot of times we just thinking that, oh, it's just, it's just a thing. But why is there such an obsession with bulls? You got the Chicago Bulls, the Longhorn Network, bull. Again, Baal was a bull deity. Also, an interesting thing to note as well is one of the gods that they have amongst the Amorites also had like deer and elk among them too. It was like a bull god that had like deer or something with it that went along with it. It had just such a big pantheon of crap. But that was also another one that was associated with them. But yeah, you got bull logos all over the place. You got the Lamborghini logo, bull. You got the Merrill Lynch logo, bull. You got outside of the New York Stock Exchange, a bull. You got the Toyota logo, a bull. These people are letting you know who they are. This isn't just randomly picking an animal and just being like, oh, this is what it is. I mean, why do you think that there is a bull outside of their center of power? Why do you think outside of their center of power is a giant bull with a little girl? The woman riding the beast. Somebody here rightly put it right there. Greed. They put it on there. Greed and death. They rightfully put that on that thing. These jokers out here taking pictures with Baal. This is their deity. This is their God right outside of the place, their seat of power, where they control everything. The New York Stock Exchange. They're letting you know who they are. They're venerating their God right outside of the tool that they use to control the world. There's a reason why there's a certain group of a certain type of people there too. I ain't gonna go there though. You know them people that got caught digging them holes with high chairs and stuff in them tunnels. Them people, yeah. There's a reason why that there's a reason why when they protest America by burning a Baal statue. There's a reason why that they burn a Baal statue. No, American, that is not it. Y'all stop saying that. It's not America, Amorite. That's not the same thing. That is not that. Amorite simply means the West. Again, going down these rabbit holes of nothing. That rabbit holes is not the same. It is not. Look at the people and look at their actions. Don't get caught up on words because they like to play games with words. You have to get to the etymology and the true meaning of the word and look at the nature. That's the thing to make the connection with. Look at this. This is the connection. I'm showing you the connection. Why is Iran burning statues of Baal? Why? Why are they doing that? Because maybe they understand something that all of us over here that's been brainwashed under this nonsense don't understand. Is that we're in Babylon. Why do you look? They got the obelisk right behind it. They've been doing this all the time. When they protest America, this is what they've been doing. Even in those little cartoon propaganda things that they got, they burn ball statues. They call it devil worship. That's where we are, y'all. This is where we are. And to show you also how they infiltrate, y'all remember this person? Y'all remember this person? Pretended to be a whole Hebrew, was the president of the NAACP, a whole white woman, but pretending to be us. Look, done curled her hair up, got a tan. They are the same game plan. They always come in and pretend to be us and pretend to roll with us and to be like us, but at the same time, all they do is disrupt all our plans and cause problems. I'm going to show y'all another one. Sean Paul. Y'all remember Sean Paul? Yeah. Sean Paul Ryan Francis Enriquez. That don't sound very Jamaican. Was born in Kingston on 9 January 73. His mother, Frances, a painter, is of English and Chinese Jamaican descent. So there it is right there. Y'all don't know that there's lots of Chinese down there in Jamaica. Again, they come in, they assimilate, they take over. The Ham dynasty did the same thing. If you look at the old Manchurian Guard pictures, them jokers were melanated. They were sons of Ham. But of course, those with that Amorite bloodline came in and made themselves the head. But if you look in old pictures of the Manchurian Guard, and even amongst some of the people that served and worked in the palace, they were melanated. They were melanated still during that time. They were still melanated. His paternal great-grandfather's family, Sephardic Jews from Portugal. He came from the place that put us in slavery. Again, just because you born there don't mean you from there, my guy. You not Jamaican. You got this nigga running around, Shana Pa, nigga, you ain't Jamaican. You coming in taking what's ours. They heavy doing that. If you 9 times out of 10, if you listen to artists and all their songs is about weed, they're definitely not native Jamaican. It's one of these jokers coming in. I see it all the time. Reggae is pretty much some of the only music I still listen to, and sometimes I gotta watch that because these jokers come popping up. I'm like, I ain't trying to listen to no white man LARP as a Jamaican. I don't want to listen to no white man LARP as no Jamaican. If I want to listen to a white man, I listen to country. But they always come in and assimilate. Those who don't know, Eminem got his whole flow from another rapper. Eminem ain't nice like that. He got that flow from a Hebrew man. But what do? They come in, they try to do what we do and assimilate. That's why you see all these goofy white rappers coming around and trying to do all this stuff. You see, what's the dude name? That's I forget his name. The guy covered in tattoos that's like MAGA, but wants to rap and all that crap. I forget his goofy name. A rapping MAGA don't even sound right, but you see, there's a couple of them. There's him and there's this other big doofy looking dude, look like Humpty Dumpty, all trying to be rappers, but want to rap about Trump and rap about the right wing. Like, these jokers are fakes, man. They are fakes. We've been looking and listening to fakes coming in, pretending to be us, and it's time we stop co-signing the fakery. This nigga's a Jew. He ain't even Jamaican. And got joking around here. Oh, Shana Pa. We be burning. All these jokers, man. And y'all know the thing I did about the so-called civil rights jokers. How almost all of them were not white. That's go again. These jokers are doing the Amorite strategy. All of them. W.E.B. Du Bois. How you come up with a thing, then go and sit and be the newspaper man and let a white man be the president of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, a non-colored man. Rosa Parks with a whole white man and got a whole white lineage, but we want to venerate her sorry tale when the real girl that did it was a real Hebrew. They pushed her to the side. See, they always want to push us to the side and bring themselves, because that's what they did in Babylon. That's what they did in Egypt. That's what they did in every single place they went. They come in, they take over, and then they just push the originals down. There's a group of people that follow that same sentiment and got kicked out of every country they've been in, but that's, again, another story for another day. So that was a introductory course, because I could go on and on and on. There's so much more to these jokers, but I wanted to show y'all the illusion between these two, how they come in and take over, how they'll ingratiate themselves into a society and just simply take over without even shooting a shot sometimes. That's who these things are. That's who these things are. They were the descendants of the ones the Most High judged during the time of Noah. This is why we're coming up on the time the Bible says it, just as it was in the time of Noah, because them same filth is coming back. They already got their little workers were hurrying up and getting the system ready so they can control everything, and you have to listen to them. That's why they're accelerating their plans. They're trying to bring, that's why they want to do this togetherness. And, everybody come together. That's why even now, if you want to get rid of racism, just everybody sleep with everybody. Why do you think they're pushing the swirl so hard? Their numbers are going down because the clones got a set lifespan. Their numbers are going down. So now they want to assimilate and continue to pretend to be us. So they make the black man and the black woman hate each other and then brainwash them to come get with they funky unwashed behinds. Dirty, barefoot, nasty things. I never heard of Schmega before I got around a Anglo boy. Go look it up for yourself. I think it's Smega, Schmega. It's filthy. It's nasty. I never even knew such a thing could be. Because they're filthy. You saw what the Sumerians said about them. You may be able to paint over a horse, a zebra, but them stripes ain't gonna change. Once that zebra hits some water, them stripes gonna come back and show up. Zebra can't shed its stripes. Schmaga, thank you, Uncle Don. That nasty mess. And actually, it's Smegma. Smegma. Schmegma. Now that I've seen it. These jokers, this. You have to understand the history of a people. You have to understand it. We ain't dealing with what we're growing up and we're told what it was. All this, the integration and all that. That's why they pushed us to integrate so they can further take over us. That's why they bombed our cities, because they wanted us to integrate, because they didn't want us having nothing to the side, because we would be better than them. And they didn't want that. They wanted to come in and take over so they could take our ideas, take our innovation, take our DNA, take our validity to the Semitic line. We don't value our DNA the way we should. We're not taught to value DNA. We go to give blood away and all this other goofy stuff that our ancestors would shock at and look at. We too free with our DNA. We send off to 23andMe to China and all this, man. I'm quite sure they already got my DNA somewhere, but I'm not finna willingly get it. They got to come work hard for it or something. Stop trying to play get along with folks that's showing you they don't want to get along. Again, there's always a remnant amongst every group. This is the mercy of the Most High. There's always a remnant amongst the groups. So there may be a remnant amongst them. There's a small remnant amongst them. I can definitely say there's a small remnant amongst them. Very small. But there are some amongst them. So don't use this as a way to just go and be prejudiced and go and be like that. You understand where a person comes from. You understand the nature of a people. I was told by an Indian man that, hey, Indians are good liars. Don't trust them. And that dude was absolutely right. He was 100% right. Most of the Indians I deal with in business are straight liars. So he wasn't wrong. He was telling me the nature of his people. All people have a nature, and it's very difficult for a person to go against their nature. So, with that, I hope y'all have a better understanding of who these Amorites are. These Westerners, as they were called. That's really what the name means, Westerners. They were a group of people, nomadic tribes, who would come in and take over various cultures and take over and rule in those cultures. They did it amongst the Philistines. So this is where the Hamites, this is why I say you can't do it by just color, because they assimilated into these people. Again, Obama is a thing. Kofi Annan is a thing. The Indian broad that ran against Trump is a thing. You can't go by skin color. You have to go by people's family tree and who they are as a people. That's why back in the day, they would say, who are you? Who's your daddy? Who is this? Because they didn't care about the color. They would assume, like they assume a lot of us was Egyptian, but that was wrong. Because we look like Egyptians, but we're not Egyptian. You have to know the father and the genealogy of a person. So don't just go around blindly, oh, Amorite. Oh, everybody white is Amorite. That's not it. You got to know their DNA. But it's safe to assume that most of these jokers in power, hey, you're not finna get in power without having the certain bloodline necessary to rule. That's why all that little girl uncovered, all the presidents are related. You're still being ruled by a caste. You're still in the caste system. They just lie and call it democracy. You're still in a system where the king owns everything, and you're just a serf. You're not even a serf. You're a peasant. A serf at least gets some rights to the land. You'll get nothing. You don't even own the land. You'll spend 30 years to pay off that house. Don't pay that taxes and find out who owned that land, who owned that house. You're just renting with extra steps. That's really all it is. They sit here, oh, house ownership. Oh, people with houses want to look down on people with rent. Oh, yeah. You just renting with extra steps, my dude. I'm sorry to tell it to you. You're renting with extra steps because everything is designed to be controlled by those at the top, because they've designed this system to take away your autonomy, because these stupid, nasty, filthy, animalistic things don't know how to compete with you fairly. So all they can do is just hold you and hoard all the resources and oppress. That's all they know is oppression. It's the same thing that happened back in the time of Noah. He said they were oppressed. They oppressed mankind. They caused oppression. The angels came to the Most High and said, hey, don't you see that they're doing here? They're oppressing. They're causing bloodshed in the earth. That's all these things know. Since they have been ruling, what have we seen with colonialism and the Crusades and all the things that they do? They try to say, oh, they're so civilized, but everywhere they went, all they know how to do is kill and destroy. They're filth. And they dare project that they more civilized than us. The devil is a lie. This disgusting filth has been ruling for too long. And the Most High is about to come and make a show of these fools. And everybody that aligns themselves with them, with their greed, with their lust, with all the filth that is associated with them, you're going to have your place with that mess too. So stop partaking in the filth of your enemies. These are our enemies. They are literally our arch nemesis. We have been dealing with them in the entire existence of the formation of the Hebrew people. They have been our foils. Let's let this generation be the last time we hold hands with these filthy things, these abominations of DNA, the filth things. They're not human. They're not real. They want to call us monkeys. Actually, that Sumerian thing left out one of the, which is funny, that all those quotes, I just now remembered that I read the original Sumerian quote a while ago. They also said that they had features like monkeys. If you look at certain Asians, they have those big ears like monkeys. A lot of Asians have those big monkey ears. A lot of white folks have big monkey ears. Anglos have big monkey ears like that. Anglos have the small lips. Like I'm telling you, if you shave a monkey, what does a monkey look like? I ain't never seen a monkey with an afro. I ain't never seen a monkey with locks. I ain't never seen a melanated monkey after you shave them down. Silverbacks, all of them. When you shave them, they are pale. I never seen a monkey with thick lips. We don't get ticks. You know who gets ticks? We don't get fleas. You know who gets fleas? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. The answers have been right there in front of us. We just haven't put the 2 and 2 together. It's time for us to start using our brain and putting what we see together and stop trying to explain it away, because that's the explain it away is their witchcraft. That's what they try to put in your head to keep you in this open air prison that we call this modern system of man. Anyway, man, I pray this will bless y'all, and I pray y'all have a blessed rest of the week, and I will see y'all next week.
See, you dealing with a born-again believer, a King James reader. When they come to putting in work, I got more stripes than a zebra. See the demon murderer in progress. I'm creeping up on him slow like his name was Cyrus. Then I put 2 up in where he digest. Why stress? I just put it down on sight, so I guess you can't deal with the real. Let it on the still. Let me get this off of my chest. Why, yes, I'm just a spiritual gap pillar. Like Hiller, blood spiller. To make it blunt, a straight demon killer. The other day I had a dream. It seemed that I was crowned the king, given the kingdom and the black queen. But I told the kingdom bye, and I kissed the queen goodbye. Cause I'd rather boss up in the ghetto and see demons die. See, I don't have no love for demons. demons and they don't love me. So I guess my KJV and I put it down constantly. Takes authority over the strong man when I'm 459 and him. He's always on my mind and I'm going to sleep and I'm dreaming of finding him. Always like age of breaking darkness in 100 ways. You attack my thought like I'm on fast and way 100 days. And then you're like a gorilla, peanut butter for your villa. It's the sanctified blood wash, demon killer, killer. Yeah, yo, I walk through the valley of the shadows of my neighborhood. I fear no evil. Yeah, yo, I walk through the valley of the shadows of my neighborhood. I fear no evil. I'm host, shot the gates of hell. I got the blood of Christ so they can prevail. I hear them talking, they don't know I'm stalking. The feel the leave more dead slugs in they forehead. N-I-B-S-T-R-A-P-P-E-E. In my H-A-N-D-C-R-E-E.